Namaste and welcome. There are few people in this world whose name itself serves as an introduction and garners utmost attention and respect from people all around them. My special guest for today is one such person, Mr. Tushar Arun Gandhi. Yes, he belongs to the world-famous Gandhi family. He is the great-grandson of Mahatma Gandhi ji, who Indians world over regard as father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi ji or Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. So today we in Dayton are very excited to welcome Mr. Tushar Arun Gandhi here. How lucky are we to have him, and as well as Dr. Martin Luther King's cousin, Reverend Joel King as well this week, to inaugurate or launch the season for Nonviolence. Let's welcome Mr. Tushar Arun Gandhi to our program.
Thank you, Vijaya. Thank you very much for your generous introduction and warm welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi. We are so incredibly honored and privileged to have you here on our program.
My pleasure.
So, before we delve into the season for Nonviolence, I have to ask you, how are you feeling being in Dayton? Have you experienced, I hope you have experienced the warm, friendly nature of people here in the Midwest?
I have had a very nice few days over here. The welcome I received from all groups of people was very affectionate and generous, and I was very delighted to see the number of Indians and Asians who are present in the Dayton area. And so it has been a very pleasant experience so
That's
far.
Wonderful to hear.
Even though the weather was pretty harsh, the warmth of the people made it bearable.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very happy to hear that, and it's wonderful to have you here. Yes, Ohio weather can be tricky. It keeps it interesting for us, you know.
Absolutely.
Every day is different for us, and we look forward to good weather like today. It's been sunny, and I'm happy to be here with you in the studio.
My pleasure.
So let us talk a little bit more about a season for Nonviolence. So you are here to launch a season for Nonviolence from Dayton this time, and I believe this is your first time here.
My first visit to Dayton, Ohio, and it was a bit of a funny thing because when my friend Terry Orosi invited me to come to Dayton, I assumed wrong and thought that she was mentioning Dayton, Daytona Beach, Florida.
We are sorry, we did not bring you to Florida. Instead, we brought you to Ohio.
That's fine. Then she clarified. She said, "This is not Daytona. This is Dayton, Ohio." And I said, "Oh yes, I know the difference."
Well,
so it was a bit funny, and but it's fun to be here and to experience the people and the city and what makes it unique.
Yes, yes. You can always go back and say, I went to the place of Wright brothers.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's also a coincidence because I always, as a child, fancied myself to be a flyer.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to join the Indian Air Force and fly fighter planes as like my uncles. And so coming to the city of the Wright brothers and the founding of aviation is also very nostalgic. And as a coincidence, my first visit in Dayton was to the Air Force Museum.
I'm happy to hear you went
Yes,
there.
yes.
Yes, it is our treasure here.
Yes.
Yes, Air Force Museum. So, well, I'm happy to hear that you've been having good experience in Dayton. So, could you please tell us a little bit more about A Season for Nonviolence, how it began, and what we are doing here?
My parents, who moved to United States in 1985, were based in Memphis, Tennessee, where my father founded and established the M.K. Gandhi Institute for Nonviolence. And it was their idea to link the martyrdom anniversaries of Bapu, as I call Mahatma Gandhi, and Dr. Martin Luther King, and celebrate the interim period between 30th January to 4th April as the season for nonviolence. And so they instituted this whole program. The objective was to take the message of peace and nonviolence to the community, and especially to the youth of today, and sensitize them and involve them in the commemoration of the 2 death anniversaries. And so it was started almost 3 decades back in the US. And during their lifetime, it came to be commemorated in almost 36 cities in the US. And I believe that it started, a couple of seasons were also commemorated in Dayton. But then in 2007, I lost my mother, and in 2023, I lost my father. And so when Terry approached me, and along with the International Peace Museum, to try to bring me to Dayton, since it was in this time period, I suggested that we revive the season for nonviolence and do it while I'm over here. And so I was very happy that they both agreed, and we were able to launch it in Dayton day before yesterday, on the anniversary of my great-grandfather's death. And it will continue for the period till 4th of April, and with various commemorative celebrations and things. Part of it I was happy to be a part of, and now I'm hoping that other institutions will also partner and join the celebration.
Yep. What a great idea. Just the thought of bringing back a movement for nonviolence through this, through this effort. It's I believe, the need of the hour, especially considering the things that are happening around the world. We definitely need to promote more nonviolence and peace.
Yes, it's never enough.
Yes.
Peace and nonviolence is never enough, and especially in present times when we seem to be besieged by strife and growing apart from one another.
Right.
The unifying ideal of peace and nonviolence is very important to be equally broadcast in the society, and not merely by talking about it, but making it into events, and especially events which people can participate in and make them their own.
Right.
Like, I've been visiting schools in the past few days and interacting with young people, and the amount of enthusiasm that I've noticed in them regarding peace and nonviolence, and their fascination about the legacies, the shared legacies of Gandhi and King,
Right.
Especially for this country and the races over here. It feels like it is something that is very required in the present days.
Correct, correct, yeah. Considering the situation happening, let's say in Syria or in Ukraine, we just feel like, how can this be happening in this day and age,
Yeah.
when we've already had so many great people like Gandhi ji, and later also, who have shown us the way, the right way to live life and to lead, but still, these things happening in today's world, I think it's appalling. It is unbelievable.
The problem, Vijaya, is that strife and conflict have become very profitable
Right.
for few. And so the greed for profits is perpetuating strife and violence. And it is so much, the profitability is so great and attractive that the damage it does to humanity is ignored. And so I think we need to, in whatever way we can,
Right.
we have to counter that with the message of love and peace and embracing everyone and not pushing people away.
Right. You bring up a very good point that there are people who try to make profit out of it. Maybe it's for their own fame or wealth or whatever. But at the same time, with equal passion, we have to go forward, move forward with embracing love and
Absolutely.
peace and nonviolence. I think that is
Absolutely.
probably the way to come out of this.
You see, the strength of peace and nonviolence is that it is not dependent on weapons.
Right.
Its tools are the qualities of human beings individually, and it doesn't need mobilization. It doesn't need a kind of a cadre kind of thing. Individuals can become the catalysts to bring about peace and nonviolence. And so one of the objectives of the season for nonviolence is to assure people individually that they can make a difference.
Right,
That individually each one of us has the ability to bring about change. Many a times we consider ourselves to be insignificant, and so we say that it doesn't matter whether I do something or don't do anything,
Right, yeah.
because I'm just an ordinary human being and it makes no difference.
Correct.
But in the overall design of things, it is what individuals do that actually makes a difference.
Yeah.
And the collective total of individual actions is what makes our times good or bad.
Right.
And so everyone has the ability to influence our times and our environment.
That is so true. That is so true. I think we all have the ability to do the right things, but many times we hesitate,
Yeah.
or there are other factors that kind of push us back. But as you said, if we all take it up as a responsibility, as our duty to do the right thing, that itself can become, it can just give a ripple effect, and things
Yep.
can become much better for our world.
What happens is, before we do anything, we sit back and start imagining things. And what we always start thinking is whether we will succeed or not. And the fear of failure stops us from attempting to do things. What people who believe in peace and nonviolence must understand is individual failure doesn't matter.
Right.
Even if we fail individually, we have the ability to try again. And that is what matters. But many a times we have that phobia of failing and say, oh no, if I fail, then it'll be so bad. So it's better I don't do anything.
Right.
It's better to fail than to not do anything.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is true. But again, at the same time, there are people like you who are coming forward with such impactful, events, and I think this is what younger minds, especially the kids who are growing up now, need to get that kind of a reassurance that that is the way to follow. Because even here in the United States of America, we have a lot of issues like, gun violence, unfortunately, especially with younger folks, mental health issues. I think all these can be overcome by taking the right path, as
Absolutely.
you said. Right.
When I was coming here, Vijaya, people were questioning why I was doing it. They said, you're going to spend so much time going to an unknown place, you don't know, and what will happen if nobody responds to you?
Right.
I said, that's fine if nobody responds to me. It will be a setback, but at least I will have the satisfaction of having tried.
Yeah.
If I decide that, it might not be that people will appreciate what I'm doing and not do it,
Right.
I would be losing out on an opportunity. And so we need to take, when we believe in peace and nonviolence, we need to take the gamble.
Correct, yeah.
And not worry about the consequences.
Right, that's so right. And the reason I'm smiling is because I was just thinking about the person who asked you that question. They should know there is Gandhi in your blood. You will not go back with all these kind of mindset and, just thoughts that will, fear of failure. You will not have that.
I've never bothered about success or failure.
Yeah.
I've just tried my best, and more often than not, the gambles I've taken have paid off.
Yep. Right. No, that's very inspiring to hear. And so coming back to the point that you were making about how every individual can make a difference, could you please tell us a little bit more about how can we as individuals within these 64 days, which comprise the season for nonviolence, how can we take action? What are the steps you would recommend us to do?
I think what I would suggest is that think of what appeals to you most in the spectrum of peace and nonviolence. And remember that peace and nonviolence don't only mean that you don't be violent or you don't be aggressive or you don't participate in strife. It means that you think peacefully, you behave peacefully, your relationships become less selfish and self-seeking and become more accepting of each one. And just that becoming conscious of how you can contribute and influence people in these 64 days can make a difference. And once you start down that path, then the 64 days don't seem to be very important. It just becomes a natural part of one's life. So even when my parents were commemorating the season for nonviolence, they didn't have a blueprint to give saying you have to do all these things.
Yeah.
They told everybody, every city, every group of people who came forward and said, we would like to do something for the season for nonviolence. My parents used to tell them, think of what is necessary in your town. Think of what is necessary in your community, in your neighborhood.
Correct.
And do those things to make your neighborhood, your community, your town, your city a better place.
Right.
And that's what will bring about the results. And that's where you will see that none of the places where the season was commemorated at that time had a kind of a uniform programming guide.
Right.
They did, some people who had the strength in performing arts had cultural events and artistic events, some who did the graphic arts things, created peaceful designs and things. And in different ways they worked with their communities to bring about the notion of peace and nonviolence. And I think that is the most important thing to do.
Right, right. And again, what a great idea that your parents started. I'm sorry to hear that they are no more. But you are carrying on their message, not just your great-grandfathers, but through this season, your parents as well, your parents' efforts. So this is wonderful. And as Gandhiji said, be the change that you want to see in this world. You know, so that's exactly what you're doing. So kudos to you as well for these efforts. And I would like to request our audience members to begin by visiting the International Peace Museum here in Dayton, Ohio, to see the wonderful exhibit that is right there.
Yes, it's a small exhibit, but it is worth going, visiting and seeing, because it gives a glimpse of what the season is about, and the two legacies that it brings together, that of Bapu and that the other of Dr. Martin Luther King.
Right, right. So this exhibition, folks, is at the International Peace Museum. Started on January 30th, the death anniversary of Gandhiji, and it will go all the way through April 4th, which is the death anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So I hope you will visit the International Peace Museum. Just look at the pictures. They are all real pictures. Many of them Tusharji brought himself from India. And so the exhibition is one of a kind. So please take a look and learn more about these great forefathers that we have, and we have to carry on their legacy as well. And this exhibition, as you said, it's very significant for both India and United States of America. So it's got a common value, common message, and two great people from two different countries.
And in a coincidence, I only found out after coming here that the Black History Month also coincides with the season for nonviolence.
Right.
And I see a synergy in both.
Yes,
so,
for sure.
I've been talking about this ever since I've been here, that both should come together to do things together, because we are both carrying the legacies of not just the individuals, but the ideals that they both cherished so much. So it's a lovely coincidence.
Yes, yes, for sure. So again, I would request all of you to go visit the International Peace Museum, and definitely take your children, and please encourage others as well to go check out this very special exhibition. And we are lucky to have this in Dayton this year. So and we do hope that you will come visit us every year, and you know, we can keep this going.
Hopefully, yes. If the season catches on and it becomes an annual affair, as we are hoping it will, and more organizations join hands together to make it more meaningful and influential, I hope to come back again.
That's wonderful. We would love to have you back here as well. So Dayton, Ohio folks, do take your friends, family members, and if you are part of any organization and you like the message that Tusharji is giving today, please do reach out to International Peace Museum and collaborate with them to take the season for nonviolence forward in our own way. So we can all make an impact, as Tusharji just mentioned. So we all, individuals as well as our organizations, can make an impact. So let's be part of this great movement. Although we do not have the great people amongst us, Gandhiji or Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., let us not forget their legacy, and let's keep this message going. So now coming back to a few other questions for you, Tusharji. Since we have you, we are so honored and privileged today. So I would like to talk a little bit more about Gandhiji as well. So to tell a little bit to our audience members about the kind of impact Gandhiji has had on Indians everywhere. I can state my own example. So I was telling Tusharji on the way over here, my grandfather was a big Gandhian follower, and he would go out twice a year, once on the birth anniversary of Gandhiji, October 2nd, and the second, January 30th, the death anniversary, and go buy khadi clothes for all of us in the family and his friends and everybody. So that was a tradition in our family. And he was a strict, he was a class 1 officer in the government of Karnataka, and he was very strict, followed ideals that Gandhiji, propagated, and completely anti-corruption, and all those beliefs that he ingrained in us as we were little kids. So that is how we grew up, listening to Gandhiji's principles through our elders at home, and that is the kind of impact that Gandhiji has had on Indians. And he also named his son Bapu. So my maternal uncle's name is Bapu. He's no more, but that was the kind of feeling that everybody, a lot of folks in India have about Gandhiji. So being in that family, it's a huge responsibility. I wouldn't call it a burden because it's also a privilege, I believe. It's a blessing in a way. But I would like to know from you, have you always felt that you have been part of this famous family, great family? What kind of emotions and feelings do you have around that?
It could have been a burden if I had allowed myself to forcefully live according to the expectations of people. Because it does come, people do expect me to be of a certain way and behave in a certain way and things. And by and large, I know that I disappoint people because visually there is no aspect of Bapu that they can see in me. And I'm very different from that. I dress differently, I behave in a different manner. But very early in my childhood, my grandmother made me understand that, I was just privileged to be born into that family. And it didn't mean that I had inherited any of the greatness of that. So she said, you're an ordinary person, always remember that and live your life on your terms, kind of thing. While saying that, she also mentioned that there was a responsibility that would come, but she told me that that responsibility must not become a compulsion. You have to do it voluntarily, willingly, and happily. If you ever feel that it's a burden and it's it's unjustified, don't do it, kind of thing. So I learned to be very comfortable with my legacy, and when the time came to obey my responsibilities, I did that also. But not I don't wear my inheritance or my lineage on my sleeve and make a show of it, because I know that I am an ordinary human being who has to still strive to get anywhere close to where my great-grandfather was. And so I've been very comfortable with that legacy. We have had privileges, because not officially, because we never seek those privileges. But the friendship of people, the respect that we automatically get, the warmth with which we are welcomed everywhere is a very great privilege. So I have all my life benefited from that. So I cannot say that I haven't had any privileges of my legacy. I have had many privileges, more than what normal human beings do get.
So Tusharji, how old were you when you realized?
I don't even know when that happened.
Okay.
It's almost like as soon as I learned to talk or walk, I don't remember the day when I realized that, oh my God, I have inherited such a great heritage or legacy kind of thing. Maybe it was the atmosphere in my home as I was growing up as a child, because those early years were when Gandhians were all over society, and we saw them in our midst, and some of the stalwarts who were the contemporaries of Bapu were still alive. And my home was like a halfway house for all of them. They would all come when they were in Mumbai to our place, and I remember playing in their laps and listening to them and sitting next to them, many of them. And so I don't remember the point in my life when suddenly I came
Right.
to know about it.
Of course.
It just was natural.
Yeah. So you do have a lot of fond memories of your
Oh,
growing
yes.
up days
Oh,
with,
yes.
as
Oh,
you
yes.
mentioned, the contemporaries of your grandfather or great grandfather as well.
Yeah, I'm not aware of when that happened, but that was told to me so many times as I grew up, that I have the memory of playing in Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's lap, of sitting next to Siraj Gopalachari and listening to him speak, of so many other leaders, actually sitting in the lap of Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan,
Wow.
and him petting my head. Whereas, initially as a child, he was a very intimidating figure because he was tall and he looked like a disciplinarian. But he was a very affectionate person, and I remember while he was talking to people, I was sitting on his lap, and he was, stroking my head and affectionately holding on to me. So those are the memories that I
Right.
cherish
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. So you are a peace activist now.
Yes.
And many people do not know more about Gandhi family. I just feel like we all know so much about Mahatma Gandhi ji, but not as much about other family members. So any other family members who have chosen that path of peace and non-violence activist, as you said, as you are right now?
The generation before mine, my parents' generation, most of them in some way or the other worked in this field of peace and non-violence, or in the field of Khadi.
Yes.
My parents, as I told you, established the Gandhi Institute for Non-Violence in Memphis, and then moved it to Rochester, New York. They started the Season for Non-Violence. My father's younger sister, Ela, lives in South Africa and looks after and manages the programs of the Phoenix Ashram that Bapu established in near Durban in South Africa. Rajmohan Gandhi, who lives in Urbana, Illinois, is an eminent historian and has been very active in the civil rights and peace spectrum back home in India, as well as and has written many historical biographies and things. His sister Tara and brother Gopal Krishna Gandhi are also active in that. So many of our Harilal Gandhi's descendants have also been working silently amongst the poorest of the poor and the needy. And so many of them, of the family members, have in their own ways done it, but they've all been very quiet and silent.
Right.
So people don't know much about them, but their work has been very significant.
That is wonderful to hear. So at what point in your life did you decide you want to start researching more about your great-grandfather, great-grandmother? I know you've written books about them, and you give talks and interviews about them. You want to spread more knowledge of the true Gandhi and, Kasturba as well. And, just wanted to know at what point you started thinking about, expanding more and sharing with the world.
It was in the decade of the 90s that I took up the mantle of becoming an activist for Bapu, kind of thing. And so that is when I started. And initially I had the arrogance of being a descendant, so I thought I didn't need to study, I was a descendant, so who can challenge me, kind of thing.
Right.
But then I realized that that wasn't the right way of doing it. So, and also at that point of time, I decided to write my first book, which was dealing with the conspiracy of Bapu's murder. And so I realized that just the hearsay that I had grown up listening to wasn't enough to justify a book. So I had to do deep research on that subject, and it took me almost 4 years to do the research and then write the book. And that is when I realized that I needed to educate myself, and so I made it a point to read as much as I could about. Initially, I read everything that Bapu had written himself, and that was humongous because he was a voracious reader and writer.
Yeah.
So that took up a lot of my time, and then I also read what other people had written about them. And so that was my initiation into the whole thing, and it has helped me. Now I can talk more authoritatively. I can argue, because back home in India there is a growing trend of misinformation regarding Bapu, and there is a very orchestrated campaign to malign him, and a lot of fiction is mixed into it. And because I'm equipped, I'm able to counter that very effectively by the truth and not get intimidated by the decibels of that campaign.
Right.
And so it has paid dividends. The studies that I reluctantly did have paid dividends.
That's good to hear. So if our audience members would like to read more about you, read more of your books, is there a website that they could go to or order the books from Amazon or somewhere?
Yeah, I have a website called www.tushargandhi.in. So one can go to that website and find out about my shenanigans and about what I am doing in my programs. It also gives synopsis of my books, both Let's Kill Gandhi and The Lost Diary of Kasturba. Both are given over there, and I think there are links over there to be able to buy them online too. So all that is available on my website. And then I am quite present on the World Wide Web. So a search of my name also brings up a lot of good and unsavory aspects of my life.
All right. So moving back to Gandhiji and his way of living, one song that always comes to mind when we talk about Gandhiji is Vaishnava Janato. Can you tell us a little bit more about why he was so drawn to that song?
It was from his childhood, because being a Vaishnava and a very strict and orthodox Vaishnava family, it was part of their daily rituals. And since Narsi Mehta also belonged to the same community and things, so he was an iconic person for the community. And so Bapu grew up listening to his bhajans and things. And then as he grew, the realization of the central message of that bhajan, of how a person, and you know, it is very wrongly assumed that it is the bhajan is talking about a caste and community. It's not. It's actually providing the definition of how an ideal person can be, what are the qualities that make a person ideal. And Vaishnav is just a different noun for being ideal human.
Got it.
Not denoting the caste or community. So when Bapu grew out of that orthodoxy of caste and community and things, and started thinking of the human as a common feature, the true meaning of that bhajan appealed to him, and he adopted that bhajan as his principal bhajan for the prayers in the ashram. If you look at the prayers in his ashram, you will realize that he has picked out most of the hymns and bhajans that are sung in his ashram prayers talk about not the religious identity so much, but about the ideal qualities of human beings and what combines us and unites us as human beings and perfect human beings.
True.
And that is the way that all of it evolved. So Vaishnava Jan was one of his favorites because it, in very simple terms, gave the definition of the ideal human being.
Right, yeah. We all grew up in India knowing that as something that Gandhiji always sang. And we sang it thinking about Gandhiji always. But very recently I came to know that it was not written by Gandhiji.
Not at all.
Yes, it was written by Narsingh Mehta. And I actually came to know through Gandhi's song, the documentary that our mutual friend Mayank Chaya has created. So audience members, if you're interested to know more, please do head over to Mayank Chaya Reports on YouTube and do watch that documentary. It's very interesting.
It is very
thorough
and
well
very
studied.
worth watching, because my friend Mayank has done a beautiful job of narrating the history of Narsingh Mehta, the hymn, and the reasons why it appealed to Bapu so much.
Yes, and I took time off to just understand every sentence in the bhajan, and it's so meaningful.
Yes.
I urge everybody to learn more about it and watch that documentary. If you go to Mayank Chaya Reports on YouTube, you'll be able to find Gandhi's song, and that is really beautiful, very well done documentary. So thank you for sharing that insight about what Gandhiji was drawn to and why he was drawn to that beautiful song.
Yes.
Now, coming back to the Season for Nonviolence, I did see when I was researching a little bit more about it that GandhiInstitute.org website has these daily practices there. So I felt that was very handy for anybody who wants to participate in the Season for Nonviolence. So would you like to share a little bit more about that?
These were what you find in the GandhiInstitute.org website is what evolved through the years of my parents' dedication to the ideology of Bapu and peace and non-violence. And so all that you see listed over there was how the ideology was customized to meet with the needs of our times, the present times. If you look at the institute, you will also realize that in many of the new prisons in New York, they commemorate the Season for Nonviolence amongst the prisoners. So one aspect of it was to equip the prisoners to, when they are released, to come assimilate in society to use what they experience from there. And throughout his lifetime, my father used to communicate with many of these prisoners whom he met and at Kriya and became friends with on his very regular visits to prisons initially in Tennessee and then in New York. And so the season has a far-reaching influence and has helped many people to make a difference to their lives.
That's wonderful to hear. So if you are interested to know more about it, head on over to GandhiInstitute.org, and there, if you look for Season for Nonviolence, there is a daily practices PDF which you can download and try and follow them. And they've also, as you research more, there are more mentions about other great people who have also contributed to peace and nonviolence from around the world, just like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has done here and Gandhiji in India and South Africa. So that is really a very good resource as well. So today I just feel so happy to know more about Gandhiji as well as the work from your family through you, Tusharji. And Ji is a way of giving respect in India, so that is the reason I'm calling Tusharji as Ji, Tusharji. So I would also like to mention to folks who think that The entire Gandhi clan moved to India from South Africa. As you mentioned, there are still your family members in South Africa still looking after some of the initial setups there.
My grandmother lived in South Africa till her very end. My grandfather also lived and died there. Only my father moved back to India, and we stayed in India because when he married my mother, he could not take her back to South Africa because it was a closed country with apartheid, and so he was forced to live in India. And both his sisters continued to live in South Africa. The elder sister till she passed. Her children are still there, my cousins who still live in South Africa and work over there. And my younger aunt, my father's younger sister, also lives in Durban, and she was a member of the first parliament after freedom of South Africa, and worked closely with Nelson Mandela at that time. And now she takes care of the daily running of the Phoenix Ashram near Durban, which was established by my great-grandfather.
That's wonderful to hear. So all of you in your own right deserve kudos, for all the great work that you've been doing.
I think all of us are very aware of the responsibility that we have inherited along with the illustrious lineage we belong to.
Correct. Yeah, no, that is great, and we feel privileged to be talking to you today. I would also like to just ask one more question about this particular film, Who Killed Gandhi, that we recently watched here in Dayton, Ohio. There was a great turnout in just a few days of organizing the event, and I just wanted you to maybe say a bit of about that film, why it was so important for you to contribute to that project. And I would like to urge our audience members to watch that film as well. So if you could just add a little bit more information about that film.
My friend and filmmaker Anand Ramaya of Canada approached me with the idea of making this documentary, Who Killed Gandhi, explaining the history behind his murder and the history of the people involved in that murder. So it dwells around three principal characters in that whole story. One is Bapu himself, the other two are V.D. Savarkar and the murderer Nathuram Godse. And it talks about the history and life of all three people and where it came together and how the entire conspiracy to murder my great-grandfather happened. It's a very interesting 80-minute documentary that shines a light on that entire aspect. And fortunately, audiences who have seen it have all reacted in a similar way, saying, why didn't we know all this before? One of the reasons to make the documentary was that there was a growing campaign back in India to justify Bapu's murder and make it look like a noble act of patriotism. And so the true reasons were also very essential to be brought to people's notice. And that's what we have achieved in doing, and that's where I have made it one of the most important things that I do of exhibiting that film wherever possible. And I was very happy that the group that saw it in Dayton appreciated it, and I hope that we will be able to have more public screenings of it, so more people can see it.
Yes, definitely. We were there with family there, and I would definitely encourage you all to watch that film, Who Killed Gandhi. And what's interesting for us is that the light has been shed on Godse's family as well, in a way that they are able to speak up in the documentary. You did not want a biased filming there. So that is something that was very interesting, and we could clearly tell how emotional it was for you.
It was.
This whole project.
It was very because of the insistence on not being biased and being very fair in
Right.
the documentary, most of my footage ended up on the floors of the editing suite because we needed to make time to, and I insisted with Anand that the footage of the family descendants of Nathuram Godse and Savarkar must not be deleted at
Okay.
all. They must have absolutely as much time as they required to tell their thing, resulting in my participation in that documentary diminishing. But I don't regret that at all because we finally got the message across.
Right. No, the message came through for sure. And hopefully someday we'll get to see all those deleted scenes as well.
Anand told me that they have a website and he's going to share the link, which I will then publicize
Right.
myself, where snippets have been made of
Yeah.
all the footage that has not been used
Right.
in the documentary. So after watching the documentary, people who are interested in seeing the behind the scenes things and the footage that was not utilized
Yeah.
can go and see it in details, because if everything was used in that documentary, it would have been doubled its
Sure.
size.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure the filmmakers have all these constraints of time and resources and everything before they finalize a film and get it out there to the audience members. But see, really, I urge all of you to watch this film if you get a chance, Who Killed Gandhi. It is very emotional just as an Indian to watch it, you know, what the British rule, how it impacted, and what were the treacherous acts that were going on, and what were the kind of circumstances that leaders like Gandhiji faced, and still, you know, ended up getting freedom for us, which we are all enjoying. So hats off to the filmmaker, and hats off to you as well for all your efforts for that film.
Thank you so much.
And hopefully very soon we'll talk to Anand Ramaya also in another exclusive interview, so please stay tuned with us for that as well. So having said that, there is so much to talk about your family. Everybody's curious to know more, and we have the utmost respect for your family.
Thank you so much.
So we do want to just focus on the season for Nonviolence, for which you have traveled all the way from India to Dayton. So before we end the interview, would you like to add anything else about season for Nonviolence?
The season for Nonviolence, the objective of the commemoration is actually to commemorate the two iconic leaders, and I'm also trying to include Nelson Mandela in it, because he is also a very iconic leader who continued the legacy of my great-grandfather. But more than all those commemoration, it is a challenge to people, ordinary people, to perform their own and contribute in their own method to the propagation of peace and nonviolence and making it effective. And so we are, the reason for having the season for nonviolence is to awaken the spirit of peace and nonviolence in every human being that comes in the sphere of that commemoration. So it's your event, it's your we want to make it into a tradition of peace and nonviolence, and unless you help us do that, it cannot be possible.
Thank you, Tusharji. And as you heard from Tusharji, all of us can make an impact. So please do head on over to International Peace Museum here in Dayton. You can, if you are away from Dayton, you can go to the gandhiinstitute.org website. There are many other references where you can just try and deepen your understanding of nonviolence, bring peace of mind for yourself, for others in the community, and try to make our world a better place through this season for nonviolence and our daily practices as well. So with that message, I hope to see you again. We all hope to host you again in Dayton next year, and we hope to make this big, this season for nonviolence.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much to allow me to express my thoughts to your audiences, and not just myself, but to publicize the virtues of peace and non-violence. Thank you. I'm grateful to all of you.
It is definitely our privilege and honor, Tusharji. Thank you so much for being here. So thank you again for joining us in this program today. We will continue to bring incredible guests to you and wonderful messages for all of us here. So please stay tuned with me, Vijaya, your host, Vijaya S'navar Patil, and we will give you information about how you can connect with us at the end of the program. And we hope to see you again next time. Thank you. Take care. Namaste. Stay happy. Stay healthy.
Namaste.